Fantasy football season is coming around the corner. It's time for us to take a look at potential breakout candidates for the 2025 season, and what better place to start than the quarterbacks. Year 2 or sophomore quarterbacks have the highest chance of breaking out. That's how it's always worked. So we're going to take a look at all the year 2 quarterbacks and decide who you should draft and who you should be fading. Long story short, draft all of them. There's not a year 2 quarterback that I don't like drafting, especially with where they are going. I'm getting my ADPs from Sleeper, so there's a chance there's a little different from app to app. Also, I did this about a week ago, so there's a slight chance that it's a little different on Sleeper now, but it won't be by much. I do like to yap, so we'll try to get through talking about this without making an entire podcast about, 6 quarterbacks. So bear with me, but we are going to start with Jaden Daniels, who has an ADP of 30, and he is the 3rd quarterback being taken. Last year, he ended up as the QB5, so I have no issue with him going up that high. I will say he is not my QB3. I actually do have Jalen Hurts over him, and I get into that more later. In a different video, I'll drop my standings. But yeah, I currently have Jaden Daniels as my QB4, not my 3. But it's so close. I have Jaden and Jalen like a pick apart from each other. QB3 is not too high of a price for me. I like Jaden Daniels. However, we go further down. We go to Bo Nix, who last season had a season that I don't think many people expected, myself included. I don't think I had Bo Nix in a single league last year, which of course you start regretting when he ends up being the QB7. And you look at him in this Sean Payton offense, I don't think there's any reason for us to expect he won't put up similar numbers next year. They actually add to his weapons. They give him Evan Ingram, who I think is a great young QB friendly guy to have. You look at what Evan Ingram was doing back when he was with Trevor Lawrence, a young Trevor Lawrence, I should add. In 2022, Evan Ingram gave him about 700 yards, 4 touchdowns. 2023, he gave him almost 1,000 yards. He's just a safety blanket tight end to have over the middle. Of course, you still got Cortland Sutton outside. I really like Bo Nix this year. He's currently going as the ADP. He currently has an ADP of 80, and he is going as the QB8. Again, he finished QB7 just last year. So if you're getting him in that QB7 to 10 range, I mean, that feels great to me. That feels like great value. And again, I am so pro drafting year 2 quarterbacks, especially when their ADP fits exactly to where I think they should be, or even lower, as we'll get into, and might as well just get into it right now. Caleb Williams has an ADP of 113. He's the QB 13, and I think not enough people are high on this Bears offense as a whole right now. And we'll get into this conversation. A lot of people are out on them saying, oh, look, last year we overreacted. Let's make sure we don't do that again. And the situation's changed completely. Last year, y'all, and I will say y'all because I was not a part of this Bears hype last season. Last season, people overreacted to this Bears offense because they got a rookie quarterback and they expected him to come in and change the whole dynamic of the offense by himself. And what rookie quarterback have we really seen do that? Maybe Andrew Luck. Like, recently, there's not much. Mahomes wasn't a rookie. He had a year under his belt. I don't know why we expected Caleb to come in and just make this offense go from one of the worst in the league to one of the best, where it can support multiple fantasy options. It just didn't feel realistic. Now, however, Caleb Williams not only has another year under his belt, or a year under his belt, I should say, but they bring in Ben Johnson. And a good offensive mind, a good offensive play caller, can do the thing that everyone expected a rookie Caleb Williams to do last season, and that's just completely changed the offense. Especially going from what they had last year to Ben Johnson, it is night and day different. And it is mind-boggling to me that people are saying, well, last year didn't really work out, so let's pump the brakes. Why? We're getting one of the more talented quarterbacks in the league with one of the smarter play callers in the league. You add DJ Moore and Rome Odunze to that. They draft Luther Burden. They draft Colston Loveland, just giving him multiple receiving threats. And one of the most important things to me is Caleb Williams likes to hold on to the football. Can Ben Johnson fix that? I think probably a little bit. I think at the end of the day, Caleb Williams is going to be who he is, and he likes holding on to the football. However, they upgraded this offensive line, so he's going to have more opportunity to hold on to the football. They bring in guys like Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman to upgrade this offensive line. On paper, this offense feels like it's just ready to explode. And instead of investing in this offense, especially right now while it's kind of cheap, people just tend to be going away from it. Doesn't make sense to me. That's why Caleb Williams going as the QB 13, like, to me, that is his floor. I don't see a world where Caleb Williams is healthy and plays the entire season. and then he's anything lower than the QB 13 just last season with one of the worst offensive play callers in the league and one of the worst offensive lines in football, and he was a rookie. He finished as the QB 16. So you're telling me he can't rise 3 spots with one of the better offensive play callers, an upgraded offensive line, and even upgraded pass catchers? Does not make sense to me. Give me all of the Caleb Williams stock. If people don't want it, send it my way. I will take him, especially at QB 13. I take him before that, way before that. But again, if I can get him that late, I'm feeling really, really good. Next, we have Drake May, who has an ADP of 125, and he is the 17th quarterback going off the board. A lot of people are higher on Drake May than I am. However, I still very much like Drake May. It just feels like Drake May's the guy that everybody wants a piece of this year. That's why I kind of find myself not getting him as much as I'd like to in some mock drafts that I've done. To me, the Drake May situation feels like a worsened version of the Caleb Williams situation about how they upgraded the people around him. They upgraded the play caller. Yet, for some reason, more people are freaking out about the Drake May situation than the Caleb situation. So, for that reason, I am not as high on Drake May. But, of course, Caleb's going as the QB 13. Drake May's only going as the QB 17. And, of course, that value has to play a factor into everything, and I get that. But I also think you're going to get essentially what you pay for, and it's not going to be as high-end as Caleb Williams can be. I don't see Drake May going to be a top, we'll say, 5 quarterback this season. Caleb Williams, I think, actually has the potential to do that. With that said, that kind of sounds like I'm out on Drake May. I'm absolutely not, especially as the QB 17. There's no reason not to take a flyer on Drake May that late. They also upgraded their offensive line, bringing in Will Campbell, first-round pick. They brought in Morgan Moses at right tackle. They bring in center Garrett Bradbury. On paper, they completely upgraded this offensive line. Stephon Diggs comes in to be the new wide receiver 1, which they needed so badly. Granted, the social media stuff with Stephon Diggs, the stuff with Cardi B is, I ain't going to really talk on it, but it's kind of crazy. It's a little concerning, if you will. They bring in Josh McDaniels to be his offensive coordinator, and Josh McDaniels works as the Patriots offensive coordinator. That's just how it is. He can't do anything else. If you ask him to do anything else in the NFL, it's not going to work. But if you ask him to be the Patriots offensive coordinator, it's going to be one of the better offenses in football. Granted, I think we're a year or 2 away from that. I think this offensive line is upgraded, but not to where you'd want it to be. I think the skill gap. I think Stephon Diggs helps the skill position, but he's also, of course, on the latter end of his career. So how much are you actually helping? I think you give Drake May a great safety blanket, but is he really this explosive receiver that's going to transcend this offense? I have my doubts about that, but again, I'm still for drafting Drake May. He actually has some rushing upside not a lot of people will talk about. So I'm definitely for Drake May, but I'm not as for him as I am Caleb Williams. And if we're talking about later quarterbacks, he's QB 17. I think at this current moment, I might change my mind by the time draft time actually comes, but I think at this current moment, I would rather take J.J. McCarthy, who has an ADP of 139, and he's the QB 19. Again, when I'm talking about year 2 QBs, I want to talk about quarterbacks who have great situations and have a better chance, not just because of them, but because of the situations around them, making them boom. This year with J.J. McCarthy, he was hurt all of last year, but you're putting him in a situation with Kevin O'Connell, one of the greatest offensive play callers in the league right now, or one of the best, I should say. Greatest means something different. Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in football, I think. Jordan Addison, a great 1-2 punch. TJ Hawkinson at tight end. Aaron Jones at running back. And it's also another brand new offensive line. All these young rookie, sophomore, I should say, QBs getting brand new offensive lines apparently. But it's a real thing in fantasy football that's not talked about a ton, but I think it should be talked about more, is that offensive line that plays so much of a factor of an offense even though we're not drafting them. Bringing in a guy like Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, their first round pick being another offensive lineman, the rumors are going to play him at right guard. And we're talking about J.J. McCarthy, who a lot of people aren't very high on, but at the end of the day, he was still a first round pick. He's still pretty accurate. And again, he still has one of the best supporting casts, if not the best supporting cast around him in football. Something else to look at last season is Darnold had the 8th most passing attempts in all of football last season and the 4th most red zone attempts. So they're throwing the ball in the end zone. There's an opportunity for passing touchdowns. The question is, do we think he could be like Sam Darnold, who last year finished as the QB9? I think so. Why not? I think that could be a ceiling for him. I don't understand this thought of like, well, yeah, he's not going to be as good as Sam Darnold. Why not? I'm so high on the system and the pieces around him. It's been pretty proven if you look at Minnesota's history since Kevin O'Connell's been there. The only way for you to not perform in this offense is if you're just bad. And I don't think that I don't think that JJ McCarthy is just bad. At minimum, I think he's average. And again, it's been proven in this offense, if you can just be average, you're going to produce. So to me, as long as he's healthy, which I will admit is probably the biggest downside to him, is can he stay healthy? He's a pretty thin guy. He got hurt in preseason last year. Will he make it through the season? That I will admit I'm kind of iffy on. But assuming health, if he's healthy all year, I think his absolute floor is a high-end QB2. You're taking him 139th overall. You're taking him as the 19th quarterback. To me, that is great value. You're not going to find much better value. QB19 producing as a high-end QB2. So I'm super high on JJ McCarthy. And lastly, there's Michael Penix. He's going as the 167th pick, QB 23. At the end of the day, he has Drake London, he has Darnell Mooney, and he has Bijan Robinson. This is year 2 of his play caller, Zach Robinson, who I thought had a lot of bad moments last year, to be totally transparent with you. But I also think he showed a lot of signs of growth and improvement. It was pretty up and down, just to say the least, but this is year 2. You would think he'd have it a little more under control, a little better. So I do think that goes in Michael Penix's favor. He didn't play much last year, right? But in those games, he sparked flashes of deep balls. He threw 3.8 deep balls a game, which averaged out for a whole season would have put him 8th. You can make the argument that of all the quarterbacks, Michael Penix has the worst situation, mainly because I think the Falcons will be so run heavy this year with Bijan Robinson, which is why I'm so high on Bijan Robinson this year. He also threw some balls just straight in the dirt. He wasn't totally accurate. However, again, we're talking about the QB 23. If you want to take a flyer with him on your last pick of the draft, why not? It doesn't hurt. Of course, of all of them, he is last on the ADP. He is the last quarterback being taken of all of them. And there is reason. I agree with that. But it falls down to the beginning of where they are going, the value you're having to give up for them. I am not against taking any of them. And of course, that includes Michael Penix. So overall, I like all of the quarterbacks. There's not a single quarterback I dislike you taking. I like Caleb Williams and JJ McCarthy the best. Caleb Williams probably has the most talent out of all of them, but he also has the situation around him to help him. Again, I think QB 13 is absolutely insane for Caleb Williams. Give me all the stocks to that offense. And then JJ McCarthy, again, same thing. That situation around him just feels too good to pass up on. But let me know what y'all think. Considering ADP, what order would y'all take these quarterbacks on? Or is there anything that you disagreed with me? Let me know. And make sure to follow if you want to win your fantasy football leagues. I'm going to be trying to drop videos 3 times a week is what we're going for on the fantasy channel. Also have a sports channel. I'm dropping videos twice a week. So if you're interested in just sports, not fantasy football, just football, make sure to check that channel out. I'll leave a link in the description.